Japanese markets are over 100 points in the red.
Today is a day where you could get trades on both sides, and if you can take them, good for you.
What could truly make it a game changer is the pricing. Now, JioPhone Next is expected to be extremely affordable.
Down about 30 points on the Nifty, 17,320.
The next couple of years, the earnings of corporate India will surprise people on the upside.
We are expecting that gas price will go high. About how much, that we don't know.
The input costs are still holding steady. I would say that, so there is no, slowdown in terms of inflationary trends.
This sector accounts for a large part of India. 7% of industrial output, 2% of GDP, 12% of export earning.
Importantly, HUL, that's the other stock which is up and about in trade today, very close to its record high. The reason why that's happening is because maybe the street is awaiting, the company's update in their analyst meet.
The options were twofold. Number one, either get a stay from the Supreme Court, or number two, comply with the attachment.
Market has been absolutely flat, right? Market breadth is positive. I mean, as you would see, it's almost 2:1.
Absolutely flat on the front line indices. The Nifty Bank is actually lower by about 1/3%.
You're entering the future-ready CNBC TV 18 EBIX Cash Studio.
Good afternoon. This is Closing Bell from the CNBC TV 18 EBIX Cash Studio. I am Anuj Singhal. With me, Nigel here, of course, in Mumbai, and Prashant joining us from the Delhi studio. Let's go through what the market's done today. It's really been a typical Thursday, typical expiry day move. In the morning, we're pointing to trades on both sides, and whether you can take them or not. If you're nimble-footed enough, you can take them perhaps. Just to showcase what the market's done, it's basically a move within 65 points. And within 65 points, it's moved 4 or 5 times in that band. The Bank Nifty has been slightly larger. Of course, it's a larger index in terms of the price point. So 300-point price band for the Bank Nifty. Just a couple of points worth highlighting. IT stock showing first signs of taking that leadership back. IT has always been the leader, but it goes through those 2-3 day consolidation and then bounces back, especially in the second half today. Bharti, now ahead of actually Reliance says that the launch of the JioPhone, actually Bharti is trading higher, and it's close to fresh all-time high. That's a very interesting trade which has played out today, and the advanced decline has been strong today. Okay, strong maybe too strong a word, but it has been quite decent, has been positive through the day. It started at about 2:1 thereabout, even right now maintaining about 3:2 thereabout. Hi Prashant, good afternoon.
Anuj, hi. Nigel, hi. As you said, I mean, it's more than headline indices, because headline indices haven't really gone anywhere. But one has felt, at least for the past couple of sessions, a more risk-off kind of tone, right? I mean, yesterday the market dipped. Today the market dipped. Day before yesterday, intraday, we saw a dip. All of them have been bought. But the fact is, we did see them in the first place. Globally as well, I think, there is this thing on dollar, which was, coming off comfortably, and that was good news. But for the last 2 days, it's actually going in the opposite direction, the direction you don't want it to go. And another point which is sort of worth pondering over is Citi. I mean, the broker globally has something called Poll's model. Basically, it's a, composite 19 input indicator which measures complacency. Overnight, last night, Citi says that indicator hit a warning level of 16. It hit it yesterday, and it came into the warning zone 4 days back. So the longest stretch of concern in a way since early 2020. I mean, it's not to say that we will immediately start to sell off or anything globally. The model itself has a strike rate of about 65%. But I think to measure complacency seems like a good idea at this point in time, and that is essentially what that indicator does. So I think in a bit of a wait and watch kind of a mode, we've had a spectacular run, and we'll have to sort of pick up on some of these cues as over the next couple of days and weeks. Nigel, hi.
Hi, Prashant. Hi, Anuj. Before we get to the top stories and what we're going to be addressing in the next 60 minutes, just pull up the intraday chart of Canfin Homes. Well, that stock has moved to the low point of the day. We just had some news coming in from Kotak Mahindra Bank that effective tomorrow, you'll have the home loan rates that will be at around 6.5%. And Abhishek is telling us in comparison to other banks, well, that will be one of the cheapest in terms of home loan rates. So just keep an eye out on the bottom of the screen. We'll keep getting you updates on that front. But let's tell you what's lined up on the show then. The market's volatile in trade, but we're off the low point of the day. The banks take it on the chin today. SBI Life is under some pressure after Canada Pension Fund sold close to 2.3 crore shares in the company. Key highlights coming up later on. And Chalet Hotels, well, that one's surging in trade after Antique initiates coverage with a buy rating. Details in our special standout brokerage segment. And Reliance is in focus ahead of the launch of their JioPhone. That's tomorrow. And finally, we'll tell you the way forward for our own markets with Gautam Dugat of Motilal Oswal Financial Services.
Okay, that's important news. Ford is shutting down both of its manufacturing facilities in India and will be focusing on electric vehicles. Of course, unlisted company in India, but at least, from the point of view of legacy issues for a lot of people, Ford has been an iconic car, a driver's car. I mean, if you love to drive, Ford is for you, but that's a bit of a sad news. But let's do one thing. Let's move on then and address the last hour trades. By the way, I just want to point out a couple of stocks before we move to last hour trades. Dish TV, we 2 days back pointed out about that news about that shareholder activism and the fact that the bank trying to force the management out. That stock was, I think, up 20% that day. It's up another 20% today. I think Z is having a bit of a rub-off impact. That stock as well, Z Entertainment, is also seeing some bit of buying. But Mitesh Thakkar is with us for the closing calls. Mitesh, good afternoon. Your thoughts on the day's trading action being very volatile, but within a band, and your stock calls?
That's right, Anuj. Today the entire range of the Nifty has been within the range of yesterday. So I think not a very directional wise kind of move which is happening over there. It's still, market which is contracting slowly. And we're still, possibly not giving signs of a breakout or a breakdown happening. But as I said, the broader trend is on the upside. So declines to 17,200 would be buying opportunity. Till then, you just want to wait it out and trade with stock-specific bias. I have a buy on Marico with a stop at 563 for targets of 590, and MCX, that's a buy with a stop at 1639 for targets of 1690.
All right, Mitesh, noted that point. Well, let's talk about a couple of stocks then. We have Deven Choksi of KR Choksi who joins us on the show. Hi, Deven. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, one pocket of the market that's been doing well has been some of these consumption stocks, the FMCG basket. HUL, well, they have an analyst meet today. Nestle as well is doing well. How do you view this segment of the market? Any picks from here?
Hi, Nigel. Good afternoon. Well, I think what I'm observing in this consumption stocks, particularly, I think some of the names which you mentioned, they're creating, I think, a very significant amount of their presence through and make an omni-channel presence. I think with tie-ups, I think with companies like HUL tying up with Reliance JioMart, and probably, I think, trying to get the best out of the omni-channel model that they are trying to create. In the process, I think two distinct advantages that we see for these companies. On one side, I think they would be in a better position to have the demand prediction coming in through the online presence. And on the other side, I think that would end up saving them as far as I think their ability to produce, I think, on the requirement of the segment or the store, the products, I think, within those segments. I would think that I think the company like HUL, company like Nestle Britannia, I think they're significantly putting their thrust on creating the digital presence, and through the use of omni-channel model, online, offline combination, I guess I think they are basically going to see larger amount of growth already, I think, which they are seeing and experiencing. At the same time, I think the rural India is indeed, I think, giving a big amount of thrust to many of the consumption companies. The amount of demand pattern which is emerging from rural India is really encouraging. And that's where I would think that with the kind of presence that they're trying to create through digital medium, they should be in a relatively better position as far as growth rate is concerned. So I don't expect I think too big a jump in the growth rate immediately, but yes, I think as a direction call, the company remains, I think, extremely convincingly placed as far as the growth possibilities are concerned going forward.
we'll address the flashes at the bottom of the screen, but this is news coming in from Ford India, which is planning to may shut down both vehicle manufacturing plants here. It's going to restructure the India business. Company is going to scale down manufacturing operations in India. The company has been in a tough spot for a while. And there was that partnership with Mahindra & Mahindra, which ended some time back. And, there is this news now. The company will focus on the electric vehicle side of things from here on in India. That's the news which seems to be coming through. My colleague Parikshit will be joining us in just a bit. We're down about 16 points right now, so not really anything large at all. Devin, hi, good afternoon. Any thoughts on SBI Life? The stock's down about, 4.5% now?
Hi, Prashant. Good afternoon. I think this is an effect of the transaction which has taken place today. But in my viewpoint, I think if you look at the company from the point of view of the new business premium collection and the growth that they are experiencing, including in the last month, I would think that probably the life insurance companies are in a sweet spot. They are clocking a growth in excess of around 20% for the new business premium and the collection therein. At the same time, I think the embedded value for the company remains, quite comfortably placed, attractively placed. Most importantly, in the life insurance business, when you have the product distribution strength, which likes of SBI Life has, very significantly created, you tend to, distribute and generate higher amount of volume. At the same time, your cost of distribution remains lower. That's where I believe that likes of SBI Life, HDFC Life, they remain in a favorable position. Considering the product mix that both these companies have, in particular, the SBI, I would rather like to think that the time ahead for them is relatively, much happier times, as I would like to spell it out as. Maybe insurance as a sector, life insurance as a sector, we particularly like these companies from the investment point of view. So it could be a buy opportunity in the current fall in the market.
Okay, in fact, Devin, stay on. Let's just revisit that story now that we already discussed the stock. But Nimesh, of course, had broken that story yesterday in D Street Chatter about the SBI Life block, and that happened today. It was a large block, actually, and Nimesh, any idea on who would have bought? The entire size was exercised, right? Even the upsize option was exercised.
Yes, Anuj. So the entire 2.3 crore shares got sold by Canada Pension Fund. In terms of buyers, I understand it's a mix of both domestic and global and local global investors who participated in today's block deal. But given the fact that the deal happened during in the open trade, I guess there is a bit of leakage as well, and hence you are seeing a bit of pressure on that particular stock. So Canada Pension Fund still owns a little over 50 lakh shares. They were owning 2.68 crore shares, so they are still left with some 50 odd lakh shares, which they have now lock up for the next 90 days. So no further selling can come from Canada Pension Fund. But I guess today's underperformance is largely on the back of the big supply overhang and the fact that there could be a bit of leakage as well, leading to a bit of weakness in that stock. As I said, in terms of buyers, it was a mix of both domestic as well as FIs who participated in today's block deal.
Okay, Nimesh, thanks a lot for that, and keep bringing us those interesting tidbits on individual stocks. Devin, just one word on this Kotak's home loan and the fact that it's being aggressive now. Does it mean bad news for names like Can Fin, LIC Housing, some of these stocks which have been doing well of late?
So, Anuj, I think the liability side of Kotak, has been extremely strong, and I think that is possibly giving them a handle to, probably price the home loan kind of a product, which is relatively a safe product, bit more aggressively. I do not know whether it is a bad news for other companies. I would think that yes, they would also have to price the product more competitively. That is for sure. But overall, I see there is a good amount of growth rate continuing for the housing finance sector in particular, and that's where I would like to think that many companies which have created a larger footprint in the housing finance, would be really beneficiary. I wouldn't be surprised to see sustained CAGR of around 20% plus in housing finance business for next 5 years.
Okay, note that point, Devin, on the housing finance companies. But let's address those lines that was flashing to you on the screen. We learned from industry sources that Ford will restructure its India business. Parikshit joins us to fill us in with all the details that he's picking up. Parikshit?
Well, early in 2021, in fact, I think it was the 1st of January this year when we heard from Ford and Mahindra that they would be calling off their joint venture. At that time, Ford has said that it is yet to take a call on the India business, and it is evaluating different options. But it now seems that due to low volumes in India and a large amount of unutilized capacity, Ford has decided to shut down its 2 manufacturing facilities in India. This would possibly be done over the next 12 to 18 months. The engine plant in Sanand will continue for now. This is what industry sources are telling us. In future, Ford will maintain a presence in India, but this will be through CBUs or CKDs. And a top source in the company also told us that the future for Ford is electric in India. So it means that in future, Ford is going to bring electric vehicles in India, and they are going to maintain a presence in that space. But for the moment, we believe that the company is making a communication to its employees. There is likely to be a press conference very soon, but net, they are planning to shut down both their manufacturing facilities. The engine plant will continue. They will continue servicing vehicles for customers over the next few years as per the contract. But this will be the second major car maker to leave India after General Motors, and third American automobile major at the end after Harley Davidson. So definitely a big piece of news, and we're awaiting more clarity on how they will be shutting down their facilities and what happens to their employees in India at their offices and also production facilities.
Hey, Parikshit, thanks a lot for that update. We need to take a break, but before we do that, just look at the intraday chart of Hindalco. That's a stock which is making a big move right now. I mean, intraday, sharp spike is what you're seeing on that stock right now. Both the aluminum stocks, of course, have done well, and at every dip, they keep getting bought. We'll take a break. Up next, Chalet Hotels is a stock just surging in trade after Antique initiated coverage with a buy. Details coming up on that, and we'll get you market view. Gautam Duggad of Motilal Oswal Financial Services will be joining us.
Welcome back. Well, the markets are trading in the red, but as Anuj was pointing out before we went into the break, that Hindalco is the one that's moving higher, and Bharti Airtel as well. That as well is up close to around 2.5%. Even Tata Steel is moving with some strength. So both ferrous and non-ferrous, they seem to be making a bit of a comeback in the last month or so. Metal stocks have been relative underperformers, but now in fact we're seeing a bit of an up move on both those two stocks. Well, let's move on then. Chalet Hotels, well, that one is surging in trade after Antique initiates coverage with a buy rating. Nimesh joins us to fill us in with details on that report in our special segment, Standout Brokerage Reports. Nimesh, over to you.
Thanks, Nigel. So it's an interesting report from Antique. They've initiated a buy on the stock with a target price of 400 rupees, which suggests a potential 130% upside from current levels. Now, Antique believes and they expect a very strong growth going forward on the back of both cyclical and secular tailwinds. Now, in terms of numbers, Antique is expecting a revenue CAGR of 55% over the next 5 years, and they expect EBITDA margin to go up by 1,000 basis points in the same period. So that's a big number that they're talking about. Largely, Chalet is present in 4 metro cities, and they have almost 2,500 keys to start with. So they believe that there is a cyclical recovery in the hotel space, and Chalet benefits the largest, and hence a strong buy with a target price of 400 rupees on the stock.
Got it. All right, Nimesh, thanks a lot for that. In fact, it's not just Chalet. You have even Indian Hotels. The stock has been doing well in the last couple of trading sessions. Devin, any view on any of these hotel stocks that you're tracking? Indian Hotels has been doing well as well. I think we should get the intraday chart up there.
So I think in general, since we don't have coverage on Chalet, I won't be able to spell out, but I think the properties that they have, I think the properties are definitely convincing. And as the major cities like Mumbai, where they have JW Marriott Sahar and also at Powai, I think these are some of the properties which should probably, start finding higher amount of occupancy. And as we read that most of the businesses are hitting the pre-COVID levels of run rate, I would like to believe that with the normalcy returning in this particular period and in the second half of the financial year, most of the hotel companies should be seeing better times going forward. would refrain from putting any view on the company at this point of time, though I think they have a broad understanding that the subject models are definitely finding better occupancy. And with around 2350 or 2400 kind of hotel rooms in their inventory, probably I think any improvement over there could result into better performance for the companies.
Okay, Devin, just coming to you on what is going to be an important announcement tomorrow. Reliance Jio will launch the JioPhone tomorrow. The pricing, of course, is what is going to be very, very much in focus. Rima is here to tell us more what to expect. Rima.
Thanks so much for that. This is a highly anticipated event. Let's tell you what we know about this, phone. It's developed in partnership with Google. It's going to have features like a voice assistant, smart camera, augmented reality, filters, and plus, what could truly make it a game changer is the pricing. Now, JioPhone Next is expected to be extremely affordable. Let's move on and now understand the kind of opportunity. Now, the overall market size, according to Jefferies, is 865 million devices today, which is a combination of smartphone users at 430 million, 100 plus JioPhone users, and the feature phone users. All these potentially can migrate. That's the overall market size. This is how the pricing looks in the smartphone. This is data according to IDC. Now, 25% of the smartphones are priced below $100, which means they are at a risk of migrating to JioPhone Next, which is also going to be a smartphone. Entry-level feature phones are anyway very cheap. The entry level there starts at 750 rupees. JioPhone users could also look to upgrade. Now, they're currently paying about 1,500 rupees for 1 year and 2,000 rupees for 2 years. So the question is, will the smartphone users, will the feature phone users and the JioPhone users migrate to JioPhone Next? One factor which could work against them is the fact that the upfront cost for a JioPhone Next is going to be a lot higher than what they're used to paying with a feature phone or a JioPhone currently. This is the data which you have on your screen on how successful JioPhone has been in eating into the market share of feature phones, which in a way gives you confidence that perhaps the JioPhone Next could also be fairly successful. Now I'm moving on to what Jefferies has put out in terms of the truly addressable market size. Now, according to them, 25% of the smartphones who anyway are used to a sub-1,000 rupee device, they could look to switch. They also believe that JioPhone users as well as feature phone users could migrate. And if you take into account the replacement cost of about 2 to 3 years, the addressable market size is looking at, it stands at 200 million. Now, if JioPhone Next manages to garner these users on their smartphone, it could cause an ARPU uplift because the current ARPUs in the market, just take a look at the JioPhone ARPUs or the feature phone ARPUs, they're much, much lower than what you can possibly charge from a smartphone. So in that sense, it could be a game changer. It could significantly add to Jio's average revenues on an annual basis. Now, some of the analysts that I spoke to, they said a sub 4,000 rupees smartphone could be very disruptive. Higher value smartphone users are unlikely to migrate because experience matters. But apart from the price, specifications will be fairly crucial. Remember, Google has had limited success when it comes to smartphones.
Rima, thank you very much for that. So we'll know tomorrow, as Rima says. Devin is with us. Devin, any thoughts on this one? Which way? I mean, if it is a super affordable, I mean, actually the cheapest smartphone out there, what are the implications according to you?
So, Prashant, I think assuming that they would try and tap into the feature phone market, I think which is close to around 30 crore phones. I think if they target even 1/3 out of it, say 10 crores, and if you take a base price of say 4,000, what you are talking about is a potential 40,000 crore worth of business, I think, from the selling of the smartphone. Even if you end up generating 10% EBITDA out of it, I think it's somewhere around 4,000 to 4,500 crores, I think, on a rough cut basis. At the same time, I think these smartphones would be funded through the finance scheme, which could possibly, I think, give them the additional part of their leverage, I think, which they would probably make money out of. And on the top of it, I think when you consider the operating revenue from these 10 crore new customers which are coming in, I think safely put at around 150 rupees per user ARPU per month. I think you're talking about additional 18,000 crore worth of revenue coming from the users. which at 50% EBITDA margin or 60% EBITDA margin, whatever way you look at it, I think you're talking about 9,000-10,000 crore worth of additional EBITDA. So totally from this particular program, I think one could count that the company is heading for around 14,000-15,000 crore worth of additional EBITDA, which would come probably from this particular launch. And that is where I think the market is counting on. So let's wait and see what exactly they will announce tomorrow. But I think this is what my understanding on the subject is.
Okay, Devin, we will thank you on that note today then. Thanks a lot for joining us. Well, the 17th Motilal Oswal Annual Global Investor Conference draws to a close today, and from the side of that, we have Gautam Duggar joining us. He's, of course, the head of research there. Gautam, hi, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining us. So, I think the best time that you've had to do your conference. But tell us, what's been the broad view on India after this massive rally that we have seen?
Anuj, good afternoon. Yes, it's been a great time. The diverse set of speakers representing various sectors, it actually just reinforced what we've been hearing for some time now. Things are better than expected as far as recovery is concerned. Whether you talk about consumption, financials, technology, commodity, or even the new age disruptors, there were 4 or 5 new age unlisted, tech-oriented companies which presented at our conference. The mood has been quite buoyant, which is also reflected in the corporate earnings as well as the markets. Consumption seems to be recovering ahead of the expectations. Financials, we have seen good asset quality improvement and collection efficiencies are also improving. Technology intensity continues to go up, which is what we heard from at least 2 or 3 speakers who addressed the corporate CEO tracks at our conference. And then, of course, some of these digital tech companies, as I was mentioning, they've recovered far better than what they'd seen during the after the onset of the first wave. So clearly, I mean, one broad commonality that I found across segments and companies was that the recovery after the second wave seems to be much faster than after the first wave.
Okay. Gautam, hi, afternoon, Prashant here. Out of the companies which presented, or I mean the themes that you touched upon here, did you come away double down bullish on something which you can talk about? I mean, could be a company, could be a theme per se.
Yeah, of course, Prashant. So good afternoon. One of the things that we've been very bullish on of late has been financials and IT, and these are the 2 sectors which form the highest overweight in our model portfolio. Tech at about 350 basis point and financials at about 300 basis point. We had the SBI chairman yesterday in our CEO track, and he was talking about the sharp recovery in the retail side of the loan growth. And overall balance sheet quality is further improving. We've already seen in the last 3 years, the credit cost has come off significantly for SBI, and it looks like the next half will continue to see that improvement. Plus, segments like home, gold loans, auto loans, and personal loans are also seeing some uptake. Then in consumption, we had companies like Tata Consumer and Berger Paints. Tata Consumer, of course, happens to be a part of our top 3 or top 4 ideas in the consumption space, and also a part of the model portfolio. Even they sounded extremely bullish. Some of their goals on integration of the food businesses, they are running ahead of the time. With the integration of that Soulfull business, or the distribution expansion. They had promised a year back that they will double the distribution reach from 0.5 million to 1 million outlets. They've already done that 1 month ahead of their target. So, and then of course, discretionary categories, they seem to be benefiting from 3 factors: better than expected recovery and higher vaccinations, plus the pent-up demand, and also the fact that we are near the festive season. So there are a host of positive factors to take away from as far as individual companies or for that matter, even sectors are concerned.
Well, Gautam, IT and consumer, going by your note itself, they're trading at 15-year high valuations, but still you all continue to be positive. But I wanted your take on the auto segment, because out there we have seen some kind of softness. What was the interest levels towards the auto sector on the whole from all the investors that you would have interacted with? And how would you approach that theme from here on? Yes, there's that EV overhang, there's a chip shortage overhang, but it's not going to last forever, right?
Yes, hi Nigel. So IT and consumer, you rightly pointed out, they are expensive. They are trading at a 15-year high valuations. But clearly, I mean, valuations across the segments in this market has, gone up substantially when you compare them with 3 or 5 year long period averages. So that's why I said even last time when we interacted that, valuation alone, if that is becoming the call, while deciding stock picking, we have seen it has not worked for the last 5 years. As far as auto is concerned, Nigel, actually, we have, articulated since a year that this is one segment where the vulnerability to the earnings estimates for FY22 remains highest. And we have seen 3 consecutive quarters of downgrades for a variety of factors pertaining to demand challenges, supply challenges, and RM headwinds. As far as conference is concerned, we had a very interesting presentation from Sona Comstar. And there, the CEO quite well articulated that the EV disruption is here and it is a matter of time. In fact, if I were to use some of his points that he made during the presentation, CY35 is where he believes that EV will overtake the ICE powertrain. So very interesting times ahead there. And at the same time, you are seeing massive supply side challenges on which we have very little visibility. So I will stay cautious on auto, given the fact that, in fact, I believe that you might see another round or 2 rounds of earnings downgrade in auto. In fact, if you look at the whole construct of Nifty, this is one sector where the vulnerability still remains the highest on earnings downgrade.
Okay, that's very interesting take that you had from Sona. Any other management that stood out, Gautam, which you haven't spoken about perhaps in the past?
Yeah, and Anuj, I think I was quite impressed by these unlisted companies. You had things like Razorpay, Urban Company, Udaan, Small Case. All of them, they seem to be acquiring customers at a different pace. And clearly, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the shift towards digitization. For example, Urban Company mentioned that their revenue run rate is already 2x of pre-pandemic by August 21. And they're talking about hitting a revenue run rate on an annualized basis of $80-90 million already with a 70-75% kind of a gross margin. Small Case, of course, we all know the story there. So some of these segments where the street has been quite excited on the consumer tech spaces on the listed side, but the unlisted ones, and some of them obviously are going to list over the next 2 or 3 years, the growth rates are astounding there, and the consumer acquisition or customer acquisition, as they say, is going at a breakneck speed. Scalability is seen to be believed. So I think these are some of the companies which will continue to come and list and keep and perhaps maybe even change the complexion of the market itself, as we have seen in so many other sectors over the last 3-4 years. So I think next 3 or 4 years, as far as the primary market activity is concerned, I think it's going to remain quite hot as more and more of these companies come and list.
A bit of a here and now kind of a question away from the conference itself, but I think it'll tie right in with what you said, which is financial services. We just learned that Kotak Bank has cut home loan rates, Gautam. They were perhaps already the lowest out there, but now they are about 20 basis points lower than the lowest. Now, growth at Kotak has been a bit of a problem. Asset quality has been pristine. This kind of shows that they're getting pretty aggressive about getting growth back as well. Do you think if they're able to do that, it warrants a bit of a re-rating, or it's adequately priced? What are your thoughts?
So Prashant, I think Kotak has been a quite richly valued franchise, and rightly so, because of the performance and track record and the quality of the balance sheet that they have, and plus the fact that they have so many value accretive subsidiaries, which are growing quite well. As far as this particular step around reduction in the home loan rate is concerned, clearly it is a step in the direction where they are saying we need to increase the growth. And as you rightly said, last year and a half, they've been very cautious on the growth front, and I would say again, a very prudent strategy given the environment that we are in. And Kotak as a franchise, we've always seen that they care more about the asset quality rather than just the growth. So I would think that this might be a tactical step, and certainly some amount of competitive intensity in that segment will increase, because the growth in home loan segment is quite strong. In fact, as I said, SBI chairman yesterday mentioned that this is one segment where they're growing very well, and it's a secured loan. So I mean, 20-25 bips cut off 20-25 bips cut in pricing around the festive season. I won't bother too much about it as long as it helps in boosting the overall growth for them at the top line level.
Well, Gautam, the Bajaj twins, they were expensive. They continue to remain expensive. And in fact, those stocks have moved very well, particularly in the last 1 month or so. Now, what about the fintech plays? Did you get any kind of feedback at the conference from some of those companies or even investor feedback? And what's the play out here? Some talk that, a couple of these Bajaj twins could fit the bill. Do you believe so?
Absolutely. So, Nigel, Bajaj Twins is a combination of growth plus quality plus the optionality from the fintech component and the best of both the worlds, if I can use that term. Of course, they're rich. They were rich 2 years back when Bajaj Finance was trading at 3,000 rupees. So therefore, bothering too much about the near-term valuations at least has not helped in the last 3 or 4 years. So I will keep the valuation part aside. To answer your specific question on the fintech, of course, we had two entrepreneurs representing those segments, Razorpay and Smallcase, and both of them have been talking about a breakneck speed of growth. From just being a payment wallet kind of a provider to a full stack payment solutions provider, and now also stepping into the lending, even though at the SME level. I mean, this just clearly showcases the ambition from a long-term perspective that they have. Similarly, on the small case side, they've been talking about adding more and more partners and, the overall bouquet of products that they have on offer. So clearly, this is a segment which just started its journey, I think, a year and a half back, and there is a long way to go. So clearly, any listed company in the BFSI segment, which has even a hint of or a tinge of a fintech play around it, will definitely continue to see elevated interest and therefore valuations, which will continue to defy, gravity in the short term. But we have seen that the growth rates have been phenomenal for some of these companies, and market has tend to overlook the rich valuation in the short term and given more primacy to the opportunity which is there in the slightly longer, medium to longer term.
Okay, well, just a word on the 3 p.m. move, Nigel. We've seen Nestle and Lever, Tata Consumer. So some of these FMCG names have done well. Kotak is making a bit of a move. And on the downside, HCL Tech and Tech Mahindra, just for the 3 p.m. move, have moved slightly lower. But the Nifty is above 17,350, but below 17,400. I guess ties in well with the options data. And if you look at the Bank Nifty, 36,670 is what you have. 36,800 is where a lot of call writing was. So we're well short of that. In fact, we're short of even 36,700 as well. The stock that's really surged is Bharti Airtel, though. It's a fresh high for that stock and very high volumes. Gautam, once that funding was announced and once it took out 620, it's been no looking back for Bharti Airtel. Your thoughts on this stock now?
Yeah, which clearly, I mean, see, this is a stock which has largely been a trading play for multiple number of years in the last 7-8 years. It's a stock which moves around news flows and in a sector which is, which is seeing so many headwinds on multiple fronts. We don't have Bharti anymore in our model portfolio. But yes, clearly, I mean, ever since that news flow came 10 or 12 days back, the stock has taken off like anything. And now, there is an angle of JioPhone, which most likely will get announced tomorrow. So it's a sector which, while has not generated much in profits, ROEs and cash flows, has generated a lot of news flows. And therefore, it's a beautiful sector for someone who's very well-oriented from a trading mindset. But somebody who looks at ROEs, cash flows, free cash flow generation, this is not a sector which will excite them.
Okay, Gautam, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks so much for stopping by and giving us your take on a whole host of stocks as well as on a whole host of sectors. Well, keep a lookout on the markets. The Nifty has moved higher, but from the broader markets, a couple of stocks, Havells, only want to pull out that stock. The intraday chart should come out for you. That one's moved to the high point of the day. At one point of time, that was in the reckoning to make it to the Nifty. Then suddenly we had a bit of an underperformance, 36,000 crores in terms of free float market capitalization. That stock takes off on rather large volumes. Well, on that note, though, we'll slip into a short break. But as always, we'll come back and we'll tell you what's going on in Dealing Room in our special segment, D-Street Chatter. We'll also tell you the next trades that you should be looking at with our technical experts. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Well, just pull out a couple of stocks intraday. Vodafone Idea, mystery stock, but has moved to high point of the day, and it's pulled IDFC First Bank along with it. So these are a couple of names which are looking quite interesting right now. Nalco, it's in ban, of course. That stock also moving to high point of the day, and cement stocks led by ACC moving to high point. Time now for D Street Chatter. Nimesh is here with the word on market and some individual stocks. Nimesh, good afternoon. Tell us.
Hi, Anuj. Afternoon. So, relatively a lackluster day of trade. The volumes are on the lower side, and even the teams are quite thin at the dealing room. So that probably explains the kind of activity which is there in the overall market. But still, I understand that there is a market at close buying in some select large cap names, and probably that explains the kind of move we are seeing in the likes of Bharti Airtel, Reliance, and for that matter, some metal names as well. That's the reason why you have seen some bit of a move in those stocks. In terms of sectors, while financial names are under pressure today, there is still a lot of interest in the telecom names, not only from the larger institutions, but even at the retail desk. I understand there is a bit of buying back into the likes of Bharti and Vodafone, and there is a hope that maybe you'll see some bit of relief from the government very soon for that particular sector. So that explains the move in the telecom names today.
Nimesh, let's get it more exciting then. What are the stock-specific news that you picked up?
So in terms of individual names, the first stock on my radar is CDSL, again a platform company back in the limelight. It's been hitting upper circuit for the last 2 days. I understand one of the reasons is there was a large selling pressure from an FII, and that seems to be out of the way, and the up move has started in CDSL. Actually, that rubs off into BSE as well, because BSE owns 20% in CDSL. So that's the first one. Second stock is IDFC Limited. That stock is buzzing in trade. I understand some bit of buying as well from HNI investors. There is a investor call next week, and there is a hope that maybe you'll get to hear more about the stake sale of the IDFC mutual fund, and hence we're seeing action in that particular stock. Third stock is Lemon Tree. While the entire hotel space seems to be buzzing today, but I understand there is a large selling pressure going on in Lemon Tree from a larger FII at an FII desk. So maybe you have to look at the delivery volumes quite closely in Lemon Tree. The last stock is Dish TV. That stock is locked at 20% upper circuit. In fact, it's been buzzing for the last 2 days ever since Yes Bank has asked the board of directors to move out. I understand there was a large block as well of 5 crore shares, and maybe a couple of HNIs have bought into today's block deal. So that will be an interesting stock to watch out.
Nimesh, thank you very much for that. And this is, I mean, you really want to pay attention to what Nimesh is saying as far as those stocks are concerned. Yesterday, of course, I mean, what he put out, 100% strike ratio in terms of what he was hearing and what actually transpired by later in the evening. SBI Life, for example, is one of those things he first put out here on D Street Chatter. Mitesh Thakkar is with us. It's almost 3:15, 15 minutes to go to close. And Mitesh is going to tell us what trades you can take now for reverse trades when we come back on Monday. Mitesh, over to you.
So I think, Prashant, sometime in the day, I think Anuj covered the hotel stocks, and Nimesh was also talking about them. I think Indian Hotels is a buy with.
Okay, all right. I think we should just get, Mitesh's picks up for you. Indian Hotels is one pick. Target price and stop loss should come up for you. And the second one is PFC. So that as well should come up for you with the target price and stop loss. Do take note of Mitesh's picks. But let's move on then. The August auto debit bounce rates, they are the lowest since March 2020. Ritu Singh joins us. She's joining in to fill us in with all those details and data points. Ritu, over to you.
Thanks, Nigel. To begin with, the National Automated Clearing House collects data on auto debit transactions, which is essentially when you give your bank standing instructions to debit your EMI payments, insurance premiums, utility bills, etc. So this data acts as a real proxy for retail payments in the system. And that said, there is some good news, because in value terms, the auto debit failures that happened in the month of August are the lowest that we've seen since the start of the pandemic. They've remained elevated over the past couple of months and seem to be coming down now. So as of August, bounce rates stood at 26.8% by value, compared to about 28% in the previous month, and at 33% by volume, compared to about 33.2% in the previous month. This means every 3 out of 10 transactions actually did not go through because of lack of sufficient balance in the account or other such reasons. This is relevant because it also reflects the current trend that we've been seeing a lot of banks report, where collection efficiencies have improved in the months of July and August, and that is reflective in this data. But important to note, this is still not back to the levels that we saw before COVID. So these are still about 700 to 800 basis points higher than the bounce rates that we saw before March 2020. So that is reflective of the fact that there is still stress in the system. But keep in mind, there are limitations to this data. It is not necessarily unique. And also, this is just one form of payment, right? So your cash payments, checks, etc., not captured by this. But all of that aside, it is a good proxy to gauge the level of retail stress in the systems.
Okay, Ritu, thanks a lot for that update. The market's really comatose in the last few minutes. It's a typical expiry day playing out. SBI Life has moved to low point of the day, and that's where perhaps there's this overhang of this block deal, so 4% down. ICICI Pru as well. In fact, today all these non-lending financials which have been flying high have corrected. Canfin Homes as well, down about 2.5%. Amrish Baliga is joining us. Amrish, good afternoon. Would you buy SBI Life here, 4% down?
I'll possibly wait a while longer because anyway, today because of that block deal, it has come down. I suppose we can see either 4 or 5% lower. I think at those levels, one should look at buying because whatever said and done, I mean, it's an underpenetrated market as far as India life insurance is concerned. And I'm in fact bullish on most of the life insurance companies, including HDFC. But then SBI Life, I'll possibly wait for a while longer for that 4 to 5% lower rates.
Okay, all right. Amrish, what about, some of these metal stocks are making a comeback. Now, in the last month or so, they have been relative underperformers, ferrous as well as non-ferrous. But post the monsoon, normally you see demand pick up both here in India as well as globally, particularly in China. Your take on some of these metal stocks, the best is over the easy money has been made. But view from here? View from here?
My view from here is I'm not so bullish on the metals at this point of time. We could see some sort of a bounce back because of the sort of correction which we saw in the recent past. But I think more or less the best of the results will be possibly the Q2 numbers. And after that, we could start seeing some sort of a dip. So there could be possibly some more upside, which should be used for trading. And surely at this point of time, one should not look at a fresh investment in metal stocks. It's more of a trading bet.
No, got that. I mean, what's been happening in coking coal and iron ore markets, both in China, ex-China, has been actually quite astounding. And I'm not talking about some, price trends over the long run. I'm talking about what's happened since the 1st of September. Big rallies, at least in those markets. Of course, I mean, it'll show up in steel as well, as we were discussing earlier. Amrish, afternoon. Any specific stock ideas you want to present? You usually have one or two? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, this time it's a pharma company, Jubilant Pharmova, which in fact, they had demerged the life science business into Jubilant Ingravia. And now they are more into the radiopharmaceuticals, R&D services and proprietary novel drugs. Close to about 53% of the revenue comes from the specialty pharma and the balance from CDMO and generics. And they should be starting a new ophthalmic line in Montreal, possibly by FY23, and that should give them some more incremental sort of revenue. And they're also debottlenecking the API facility, which should increase the capacity by about 30%. So, in fact, over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm seeing a revenue CAGR of about 24%. EBITDA margin should increase by about 325 basis points because of the cost rationalization. They have a strong order book visibility, which is about 3,600 crores as far as CDMO segment is concerned. So looking at an EPS of about 84 for FY23, I have a price target of about 924, which is close to about 50% higher than where it is right now.
Okay, all right. Noted that view, Amrish. By the way, just take a look at the markets. Today as well, we went down to around 17,300. In the last couple of days, we have gone down to around that 17,250 to around 17,300. And from there, the market has bounced back. So that clearly seems to be the near-term support zone for the markets. In terms of stocks that are moving out, pull up Reliance Industries and HDFC Bank. Now, both of them are trading in the red, but they've cut its losses. Because they've cut its losses, that's why, in fact, the market's getting a bit of a leg up. That's Reliance Industries cutting its losses, and HDFC Bank as well as HDFC. Both those two as well should come up for you on the screen. HDFC has moved into the green, so market up close to around 20 points as we speak out there. Well, let's slip into a short break on that note, though. But as we do that, here's something that you, our viewers, must take note of. CNBC TV 18 and the National Stock Exchange, well, they've come together to promote investor awareness through a very special campaign, Informed Investor. Now that empowers you to make the right decisions with your money. For smart investors, well, here are a few guidelines to follow when dealing with your trading accounts. Register for trade alerts through email as well as mobile numbers. Also ensure that you thoroughly review the transactions alerts on a periodical basis. If you notice any discrepancy or error, you need to bring it to the broker's notice immediately. Keep all the documents, transactions, statements, as well as communication records ready for reference if you need any kind of resolution of a complaint.
Okay, welcome back. So we've got the market, which is up 22 now. So at least it's in the green as we sort of wrap up this week. There's about, 7 minutes to go for close. And I mean, actually, it's after a while, the week itself is going to be a bit flat. It's going to be up about, 1/3% or so. So that's about 50-odd point change for the week itself. So up and down, but, you know, by close up once again. 2 or 3 days, sharp pullbacks, but every dip being bought in that particular sense. Amrish, you know, when we come back on Monday, you'll have the news flow from Reliance as well in terms of the JioPhone Next, the launch they do. Expect a lot of commentary, write-ups, etc. A lot will depend on, of course, the price point, because that'll kind of, you know, determine how aggressively they're able to push this through. There are reports that the phone will come with 1 Jio SIM locked in. The other one, of course, I mean, will be free. Most of these phones come with 2 SIMs. But one with the Jio SIM. What do you think the implications could be if this is indeed a very, very aggressively priced product?
No, I think, I mean, as far as price point of Reliance products are concerned, I think it will be very, very attractive for people to buy. And I think the whole idea is to increase the ARPUs going ahead because these would be the smartphones. So I think the long-term idea is to increase the ARPUs. Yes, I mean, it may have an effect on the other telecom stocks for a while. I mean, although Bharti has moved up in the recent past, this could have some effect on Bharti. Vodafone Idea, I mean, it doesn't make any difference at all. But as far as Bharti is concerned, we could see some sort of a correction once we see this launch and the price points and the sort of demand which comes post that.
Okay, all right. You know, Amrish, I just want to ask you about a couple of these banking names. You know, you had UCO Bank that came out of the PCA because of an improved performance, a couple of these other names as well. How would you approach some of these banking themes, and what's the pick of the pack according to you?
No, I mean, as far as the banks are concerned, I would still be positive on the PSU banks at this point of time. Looking at the way the markets are, I don't think there's much of a downside for the PSU banks, but because of the sort of recoveries they're doing currently, we could see some sort of a decent bounce back from here. Private sector banks, I would be a bit careful at this point of time. And I mean, as far as NBFCs also are concerned, I mean, clearly, when you look at the failure of the standing instructions, I mean, although the numbers have improved compared to earlier, I mean, it's clearly a question of glass, I mean, half empty or half full. And the way I see it is still half empty, because still this 26% figure is still decently high as compared to pre-COVID. And I mean, and also if you see 1 in every 3 transactions failing, which really shows that there's a lot of pain at the retail level. And again, if you look at the gold loans, the sort of failures which have been happening, that clearly shows that there is a lot of pain at the bottom of the pyramid. So retail loans is something which I would be very careful about, and because of which I'm saying that NBFCs could have issues going ahead.
With about 3 minutes to go for close, Amrish, great sort of speaking with you. Thank you very much for being here on this edition of Closing Bell. Have a good weekend. We'll see you back soon. The market is going to end about, 18 or 19 points higher. And let me just quickly wrap up for the day, and maybe just a quick comment on the week. For the week, I mean, it's been, it's neither here nor there. You look at the top performing sectors. I mean, there's media as a sector. I mean, largely sort of this Z there, which has got the big weight. And then there is the energy index, 3% and 2% respectively. What is down is pharma, which was down about 1% or so, 1.2% for the week. This is last Friday to Thursday close. So again, I mean, nothing like a big real estate index which was up 10% the previous week, or the FMCG index which was up big time. This was a more quieter week, and that's true for stocks as well. The big gainer in terms of the week was IRCTC with a near 14-15% gain, and then everything else kind of sort of much lower down. Today, what do we have? I mean, actually, it is media, which is up 2.8%, which means that most of that 3% gain on the media index for the week came from just today. So MNC as an index was up about 1%. FMCG index was up about 0.75%. Energy 0.75%. Metals about 0.75% as well. Real estate index down 0.75%. We had what else? Bank Nifty was down about 0.25% or so. Pretty quiet through the course of the day. Very, very limited small moves. Large cap stocks, Nifty stocks, Nestle, Bharti, ONGC, only 3 names with gains of more than 2%. That is Nestle, Bharti and ONGC. And losers, SBI Life, largely because of that big block deal. Titan down 1% and HDFC Life down 1%. So just 3 names there with losses of more than 1% as well. Nigel.
Well, plenty of action from the broader markets, though. Prashant, Dish TV, the stock was up close to 20%. Big volumes out there. I wonder whether or not there's going to be some name that will come in the post-market, the evening file. But that stock ended up with close to 20%. You had MSTC, well, valuation comfort out there. A bit of an e-commerce play as well. The stock was up close to 7.5%. Volumes are very, very high. Keep in mind, the stock has seen a sharp correction from the recent peak of around 340 rupees. Peak earlier this year was around 400 rupees. Welspun Corp, well, that's been a rank underperformer, but that one did well, in today's trading session. It was up close to around 5.5% odd. The new listing, the recent listing, that is Shyam Metallics, that stock as well ended high with a gain of close to around 5%. And Godavari Power and Ispat, they have a board meeting coming up next week. Well, so that one as well did end higher in today's trading session with a gain of close to 5%. We're talking about Welspun Corp actually. So let's get the other Welspun group company up for you on the screen. And a couple of other names that did do well. Zen Technologies, well, the stock continued to do well. Throughout the week, it was in upper circuit. It ended as well in upper circuit. For the week, it's up close to 30%. For the month, it's more than doubled. And a couple of other names as well, like Apollo Trichor Tubes. That stock did well. Metropolis has been a big outperformer. That stock moved higher towards the end of trade with high volumes. You had Gati as well. That's seen a correction from around the 180 rupees odd to around 140 rupees. That one as well did end higher in today's trading session. On the losing end as well, we had a few stocks. So you had Nitin Spinners that was down close to 2.5% odd. Welspun India as well did come in for some profit taking. Remember, these stocks did well in yesterday's trading session. They gave back some of what they put on. And Canfin Homes as well, been moving well. But today, intraday, suddenly we saw a sharp reversal from the high point of the day. Interglobe Aviation as well took a bit of a break. And finally, at ICICI Pru as well, that one was down close to around 2%. By the end of trade, though, the mid-cap index had a relative outperformance in comparison to the Nifty. But on that note, though, we have to wrap up on this edition of Closing Bell. But up next, we'll track the growing investor interest in new age agri-tech with a line of experts in our special offering. Big deal. More on that when we return.